Have you ever thought about how self-care is way more than just mani-pedis and bonbons on the couch? Self-care really transcends into how do you take care of yourself as if you were your own precious, most prized possession, like you were your own child. What does that look like? Are you eating well? Are you moving through life well? How about emotional regulation? Are you preparing for the crappy stuff that's at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day when you feel more equipped? In this episode, we're diving into Renee Dalo to talk not only about what self care means and how to set yourself up for success, but how to be more comfortable as a business owner and have more brain space as a business owner when you do that. We're also touching on imposter syndrome. Renee gives some incredibly helpful tips and tangible pieces of advice to push that up imposter syndrome aside and dive into the most robust full version of yourself. This episode is all about real talk from Renee Dalo. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Flourishing Entrepreneur Podcast with Alea Harris. This is the place where you and your fellow empire-building entrepreneurs come to vanquish the burnout monster and boost your glow and cash flow with energy alignment techniques and tried and true marketing strategies. Since seven figures won't get itself, hit that subscribe button and never miss out on your chance to skyrocket profits, tap into your intuition, and manifest your dreams. And now, your host, Powerhouse Story Brand Certified Guide, award-winning marketer, bioenergetic business coach, and Japanese whiskey lover, Alea Harris.
Before we dive into hearing all of Renee Dalo's big brain gems, let's talk about self-care a little bit more deeply. I am a big proponent of self-care. And yes, I love a massage. In fact, I have one scheduled later on today. But it's more than that. It's actually the stuff that you probably don't want to do that seems a little boring or nerdy. It's planning your meals out. It's booking your Pilates classes like I do at the beginning of the week so I don't have any excuses as the week comes into fruition. It's planning out how you're going to emotionally deal with the situation and carving out time for yourself and prioritizing yourself to make it happen. You need to constantly be recalibrating your energy so that you can move forward and hit your goals. It's also about prioritizing the stuff that matters and deprioritizing everything else to avoid overwhelm, because overwhelm leads to burnout, which leads to no dollars in your bank account. So you can nip that in the bud by how well you take care of yourself. Ask yourself, if I was my own personal assistant, what are the things that I would put in place for myself? Have you ever really thought about that, right? Would you call that housekeeper to come in once every few weeks? Would you use that meal planning service? Would you get some automations done for your personal life, right? What would your personal assistant do for you that you can do for yourself? And that might even be hiring a personal assistant, right? What do you need to do to make sure that you can show up and enjoy life? Life is not supposed to be something that you get through, you slog through, you make it through the end of the week just to rest and totally collapse to do it again and to get back into it all over again. That's not what this is all about. And if that's what you find yourself doing, which you're not alone, I found myself doing that many a time, how do you get back into it? And the key is self-care. Yes, it might be a massage, but it also might mean looking at your day. What are, as Renee Dalo will tell you in just a few minutes here, what are your daily rituals? What sets you up in your day so you're not thinking about things that you don't need to be thought of? That's another Renee-ism right there, right? So if you can be proactive in your self-care, realizing that in the time that you're planning it, you are your best version of yourself, what can you do to take care of yourself when you know you're not going to be the best version of yourself, when you know that you're tired? How can you talk to yourself in a way that is loving? How can you give yourself grace proactively so that in that moment when you look around and you're feeling tired and you're cranky, but you've already planned for a nap and there's food in the fridge and you're warm and you have your fuzzy socks ready, you can turn around to your past self and say, thank you. Thank you for taking such great care of me. This also prevents you from outsourcing yourself to other people. What do I mean by that? Often when we are flailing and failing, we take our emotions and we are begging for somebody else to take care of us. Sometimes that turns us into the victim. Sometimes that turns us into the villain, where we are mean and angry and kind of snotty to other people, when really what we're doing is asking for help. It's okay to ask for help, and there's many, 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 many times when you should. But make sure that you're able to even ask for help from a place of clarity. And the only way you can do that is to get to know yourself, understand what you need, and then ask for help, because you're doing your part to taking care of yourself, and you're not outsourcing yourself to other people and becoming not only a burden on yourself, but a burden on others. How do you take care of yourself so that you can live your best life and enjoy the people around you, because you can reach higher heights and do better things and bigger things because you're not forming codependent bonds and codependent relationships? Today's mantra is, I take great care of myself. I take great care of myself. Say it with me. I take great care of myself. I take great care of myself. When you take great care of yourself, you then have the ability to take great care of others. But your primary responsibility is to, and will always be to, yourself. Renee Dalo dives into really tangible ways to do this in her interview, which is coming up next. Renee Dalo is a wedding and event planner, wedding industry educator, podcast host, and public speaker. She has an amazing podcast called Talk with Renee Dalo, which I've been a guest on as well, and it is awesome. And she can be found anywhere you listen to podcasts. She's the creator of several really successful courses for wedding pros, including Wedding Management 101, which is an online certification course for wedding planners who want to up-level their day of coordination package. And you'll soon learn that day of coordination is a dirty word. And she will never stop yelling about how day of coordination is a dirty word, and it's something you should not be selling. Renee has also created several other courses. She created a profitable pro bundle, which I was a part of and can still never say properly. And she talks on stages like Wedding MBA, the Alt Summit, the special event, just to name a few. Renee was also named one of the top 500 most influential event professionals in the United States by Bizbash, and she's been awarded a 20 on the Rise award from HoneyBook, Gusto, and Peerspace. Along with all of those accolades, Renee is just like a good human being. She's down to earth, she tells it like it is, and she gives you all of that really tangible advice you need to succeed, to flourish in business and in life. Without further ado, let's dive into talking to the amazing, magnanimous, and oh so wonderful Renee Dalo.
This episode is brought to you by Strategy by Flourish Marketing. Most entrepreneurs are too close to their business to clearly communicate how they add value and stand out from the competition. Sometimes they even struggle to say what they do and offer. If you're confused, then your potential clients are confused, and confusion is a profit killer. That's why Flourish Marketing uses StoryBrand as the foundation for our products and services. The StoryBrand framework helps companies understand what their customers are looking for and how to position themselves to get those customers to pay attention. If you'd like help creating clear brand messaging for your marketing collateral, head to www.flourishmarketing.co/strategy and schedule a call today. You have only confusion to lose and money to gain. Visit www.flourishmarketing.co/strategy to get started.
Hey, Renee, thank you so much for joining us on the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so glad that you are here because you are a legit female entrepreneur powerhouse.
Oh my
And
gosh.
there's so much that I think people can learn from you, especially around pivoting and changing and growing and doing it in a smart way and building relationships and being a leader. And I mean, all of the things.
You're very
Because
sweet. Thank you.
I look up to you for a lot of those things. So I'm glad that you can share some of your
That's
wisdom
so
here.
sweet. Thank you. It's too early for these kind of compliments. I'm barely awake. I'm kidding. I'm
So
here. I have a red lip on. Of course I'm awake, you guys.
you cannot be asleep with bright, bold lips.
We
It's
brought you
not.
the bright lips, guys. I don't know. What did you bring, listeners?
What did
Did you
you bring?
do,
I have fuchsia. Renee has red. What have you brought to this conversation?
There we go. These are the questions.
So before we dive in, Renee Dalo, in your
Yes.
own words, please tell the people who you are, what you do, what problems you solve in the world.
Oh my gosh. Who am I? I am a kid from Brooklyn who figured it out, man. Um I
I
am
was like, wait, this is not supposed to start your existential crisis.
No. No, I'm a wedding
Who am
planner.
I?
Who am I really? I'm a wedding planner. I am a wedding industry educator. I'm a podcast host, public speaker. Um, it's funny. It's you're catching me at the end of the year. I know this will probably air in the new year, but I've done a lot of journaling about like who am I and what is all this and where am I going? And the thing that I always keep coming back to with all the different parts of my business is that like the goal here is just to help as many people as possible. And when I started my wedding planning business, that was really, the impetus was like, well, how can I help more people because I'm good at this and other people aren't and I should be helping. And then as it evolved and as I evolved into a public speaker, it was like, well, I have this idea that other people should hear and I think that this could really help them. And then I did my first speaking gig and people were like, that really helped me. And then I was like, oh, I have this idea for my business that I've been doing for years. Maybe I should make a course. And hundreds of people have taken that. And so it's always really been at the core, like how can I help as many people as possible? And this year when I was sitting at Wedding MBA at my booth with my assistant, she said something to me about the amount of people that were coming up to say hi, which was lovely and like so that's my favorite week of the year to see everyone in person. And she said, "The amount of people who have come up and said, either your talk yesterday helped me, or your course helped me, or your podcast helped me." She's like, "You're helping." Like she literally wanted me to know. She needed me to know that like you are helping people. And I was like, "Well, isn't that what it's all about?" Right?
That is definitely what it's all about. And I love that you help people because you have a big heart, but you also have a big brain too. It's just good business to help people. And the
It
way that you
is.
do it is exactly how business should be. You find a problem, you solve a problem, people pay you to solve that problem,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. And that's
So
why as like
I
a
love
wedding
that.
planner, I don't have like this over like giant course about like how to plan weddings. Like for me, it's always been way more niche. Like there's this little problem here about how to do consult calls. There's this little problem here. We could get better at offboarding. Like I kind of hone in on the fine details, and that is how my brain works. That those little moments, right?
Well, the little moments matter. And in your career, in your trajectory, you've had a lot of little moments, a lot of big moments. I've seen you on stage and you've created big internal moments for me. I'm like, oh my God, she's so right. And you've been doing it for years,
Yeah.
right? But in that ups and downs, going through a pandemic as a wedding planner, becoming an educator out of a desperate need in the industry, there's a lot that goes on. Plus, then you got your whole personal life and you're trying to blend everything together. So, over this journey of being a consummate professional and also the person who makes me just generally giggle most of the times when you talk, um, what techniques or tools do you use or have you used to avoid burnout, or if you're
Mm.
in burnout, get back in alignment personally and professionally? You've mentioned journaling. Is there anything else?
There's a lot. There's a lot. I have come to over the years this place that I'm in now where I just call them all my rituals. Like they're just my daily
Oh,
rituals.
I love that.
And
I love daily ritual.
yeah, and And, like, I know some people call it, like, their morning routine, or people have different names for it. The name doesn't matter to me. It's just, do you get these things done for yourself? And part of it was working with a life coach and figuring out, like, what I need to, I don't wanna say get through the day, like, in a negative way, but just, like, what sets me up to have a day where I'm not thinking about things that don't need to be thought of, right? I'm really sort of streamlining everything so that I'm not making a million decisions a day. This is like the Steve Jobs, right? He used to wear the same outfit every day so he wouldn't have to think about it. Um, I don't do that, but I do. This all ties in, I promise. But like every morning when I get up, I make my food plan for the day. So I write down exactly what I'm going to eat all day, because I'm a person that if I don't, I will a forget to eat, and then like eat everything that I've ever that's in my kitchen at once because I'm so starving. And I also don't need to be making that choice at like 2 p.m. when I've forgotten to eat lunch and I'm hungry. Like I just need to set myself up for success. It's the same reason that I get up, take my vitamins, meditate, do write in my journal, do my food plan, like all in the first like 20 minutes of my day. Um, so that I'm good and I'm set up and I can go about my business. But I do Burnout is a huge real thing for me. Overwhelm is a big thing for me. It happens. I just have to be really aware of myself and my body and what's happening in my brain. And like I call it like what's happening under my skin. Like I can feel when I'm getting squirrely. I can feel when I'm sitting here at this desk and there's 200 emails and I'm like, ah, and I put on the meditation app and I go do 10 minutes. Right. And I wouldn't 5 years ago, Renee would not have given herself those 5 minutes because I couldn't possibly. And now it's like, I can't not take those 5 minutes.
That makes a lot of sense because then you come back a little bit more centered, a little bit less crazy and crazed, and then those
Mhm.
email responses actually probably sound a lot better too.
Oh, yeah, and even if, like yesterday, a friend was texting me about a project we did together, and she said something in the text that I didn't like. She said, like it was something about a third party, it's the details aren't important, but she said something that really got my, like, fire up. I was like and it wasn't she said something about the third party, like, "Oh, they said this about you," and I was like, "What? Hmm?" And past Renee would have been like, "I'm calling that person and we're gonna," and I was like and I literally just looked at it and went, "Doesn't matter. It's about them, not me." And I just, like, took a breath, breathed through it.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, the meditation's working."
Yeah, but I think that that's a really cool point because a lot of people, they meditate for, like, once, and they're like, "I'm
Right.
not Buddha yet."
Right. No,
This
it doesn't
clearly
happen.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how this works. It's for the other moments of your day, and it does take a minute for you to notice how meditation affects the rest of your day and your life and the way that you make decisions. I think that that's a really good point. I love setting yourself up for sex as well, success
I mean,
too as well too,
sometimes.
both,
Depends on the day,
both.
but
Some, tantric sex, right? It's
Sure.
all about meditation. There we go. But for success at the beginning of the day, because willpower is a finite resource. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
I am very guilty of doing what you do, not eating, where you did, doing, not eating all day, being starving, being like, I feel like there's chips in here at 2 p.m., right?
Right.
The days that I, like, on a Sunday or like a Saturday, cook for the week, oh
Mhm.
my God, my life is
Mhm.
different.
Yeah. Well, because listen, that's all self-care. You are taking care of yourself. Like the idea that self-care is like going somewhere else to get a fancy massage or like, listen, self-care is taking my vitamins, is getting my ass to bed, is cooking on a Sunday so that I'm not wandering around my house going like, is there cheese anywhere in here? Because guess what? There's always cheese. And then I'm always going to eat it because it's what's
There's
available.
always cheese.
There's always cheese, right?
Mhm.
So like making better the better version of me gets to make those choices, not the 3 p.m. everyone's annoyed me. I'm so overwhelmed and everyone wants something from me and I just want to eat a giant burrito. Not that giant burritos are
Yeah.
bad, but just not
Not
every
that giant burritos are
day.
bad. I could actually go for a giant burrito right now because I have not done my normal routine this morning. I've been, like, at the time of this recording, my we are 8 hours before my company closes for a week. So
Ooh.
I'm trying to get everything
Yeah,
done.
you're under the gun. You're like, "Let's get it done, please, please, please." Yeah,
Let's get it done. So I'm a little bit, not on my normal game, but I'm looking
I
forward
feel that.
to
Are you a
that
morning
being
person?
time.
Do you get
Oh,
up early?
no,
Me either.
stalling,
Oh, I hate it.
no, stalling. Oh, if you want me at my best, schedule a meeting around 10 o'clock,
Yeah,
right?
same. Or
Then
actually, to be honest, 11. I like 11.
11.
Yeah,
Yeah, 11 would actually be good because then I'm really kind of into it and the engine has fully started. I
that's
think for
correct.
me, between 11 and 2 are the Alea magic hours.
Yes,
Yeah,
me too. Me too. Like
Yeah.
I can push it
Yep.
till 3, and then by 4 o'clock, I'm like, I don't
Mhm.
care about any of this anymore.
Exactly. I can tell when I've reviewed copy. I purposely do not review client copy that my team has written in the afternoons unless I've had a
Mhm.
nap. And I can tell copy that they've written for me that I've reviewed because I was just like, I didn't actually give them that date and they did their best. And yet I said that it was okay because I probably reviewed this at like 4 o'clock on a
Yeah,
Thursday afternoon.
right.
Yeah.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, but my team is amazing, and so they will push forward without me, which for me is the most loving thing they can do
I
90% of
mean,
the time.
that's the reason to have a team, right? When you're like, I couldn't possibly. My team, thankfully, is East Coast based. So what I end up doing is I will put in the Slack channel at like at night, my time, at like 10, 11 p.m. I'll be like,
Mhm.
hey, this thing didn't get done and I need someone, blah, blah, blah. And then when I wake up, it's done because I'm not getting up at 5
Nice.
a.m. because I'm not a morning person ever.
Yeah, well, I like it. Again, doing what works for you. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's basically how you've been able to grow this multifaceted empire of yours with courses and being a educator and a wedding planner and I mean whatever else is coming out next. It's I mean, it's goals. Renee, your goals.
You're so
So
funny. Thank you.
in that time, though, you've gotten some expertise, you have some knowledge to drop, you have some brain gems to share.
I
So
hope.
what are
God, what have
3
I
give
been
me
doing?
3 of them, 3 of your best, juiciest
Oh my
brain gems.
goodness. Um, start before you're ready is always my favorite one because I think
Yeah,
too many
because 'cause you'll never start
you'll never
otherwise.
start. You'll never start. Too many people wait for some external force to give them permission or for someone to ask them or um some sign from the universe that it's meant. I mean, just you have to start, right? I think the signs from the universe come when you are doing things. Like if you're sitting alone in your house, not afraid to do anything, you're not going to get any sign from any universe anywhere. So I start before you're ready is always my thing because I just I'm a fan. I'm not a fan of risk. I don't want to say it that way because I'm not going to throw myself out of a literal airplane like my husband did. I'm never going to do that. Um, like literally, never. Don't ask me to get on a roller coaster. I'm
I
not going
will
to zip
never do
line
that
with you.
either.
No, I like to be on the
The zip
ground.
lining was
Thank you.
okay because I could see the ground and I was like double harness and I've been ziplining once, but it just wasn't as fun as the poster made it seem. I was like,
I would
"Okay."
I would just have a full panic attack and not be able to enjoy any of it. It's the same thing. I have this thing about hot air balloons. Like I love the idea of a hot air balloon. And when I was in Temecula earlier in 2021, I was like outside of my hotel room window in the morning. I was like, there was like 10 hot air balloons. And I was like, I want to do that. But the reality
Ooh,
of me getting my butt into a basket, no, it's not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen. So no, I'm afraid of
no.
heights.
And hot
So
air balloons just seem sketch to me. They seem
like
sketch. Like, you
who
got
is
1 balloon.
and who
Is
is
there a
like steering
backup
it?
balloon should something
How do
go
you
wrong?
steer it?
Right.
How do you land? They just like you're somewhere and then they come get you. I
No.
don't understand it, you guys. But start before you're ready it's the only risky thing I do. Is the risky thing I do is think like, okay, I have this idea. What's the worst that can happen? Um and so I think made myself become very comfortable with risk and failure, right? Like or perceived failure, whatever that means for me. I always have something in my head that's like so outlandish that when I don't reach it, I'm like, well, that wasn't as great as I hoped. Meanwhile, my husband's like, "That was still
I
pretty
didn't
good
make
though."
$1,000,000 this month with my
Right.
course, so
Right, right,
in its
right.
first launch, so I guess I
Right.
failed.
Must have failed. But no, start before you're ready. Um, I think I say this a lot on my podcast. So if anyone listening to this also listens to me, you're going to be like, I get it. Fine, Renee. But I think the real honest work of entrepreneurship is really, really, really getting to know yourself very, 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 very well, because you're all you've got. Right? For the most part, for most of us, right? Eventually you get a team, but they're still not in your brain, they're not you. Um, Knowing what's great about you, knowing what's not great about you, knowing where you need help, knowing the things you absolutely don't care about doing, like, really, and knowing why, and understanding that, like, some of these things come from everything we've done before this moment, and it's okay. You don't have to judge it, you just have to know it and think like, "Okay, like, I don't really like bookkeeping, so I haven't done it in, like, 6 years." I pay people. I pay very many people to make sure that I'm okay. I check on it, but I don't do it at all.
I don't do bookkeeping. I don't do bookkeeping. Never have I ever felt the urge to open up TurboTax and do my own accounting.
Oh, never do my own
And
taxes.
no.
No, 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 no.
N
Pay the pros, people, pay the
no.
pros.
Pay the pros. Outsourcing will help you. And, I really like how you're saying get to know yourself because, I've done several kind of SWOT analyses on
Mhm.
myself, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats SWOT analysis. And my strengths continue to be consistent. My weaknesses, opportunities, threats, always consistent. So
Yeah,
why do I try to fool myself into saying, well, I
yeah.
mean, I guess I'm gonna learn how to do this differently. I'm
Mhm.
gonna be a different person next month.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna outsource this. I'm
Or
not gonna
like,
set
the
myself up
best
for success.
version of me really cares about blah, blah. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna be the best version of me. I'm just gonna be the Tuesday version, and that's gonna be fine.
Exactly. I think that that's really key too, because a lot of the times when we do our planning, especially like annual planning or quarterly planning, we plan like the best version of ourselves will
We do.
execute
We
said
do.
plan, right?
Yeah.
That's not true. I love that. It's the Tuesday version. The normal
Mhm.
Tuesday version of you is going to be showing up. So plan
Oh, yeah.
lovingly with that version in mind.
And, once you once you know yourself and you acknowledge some things about yourself, life actually gets a lot easier. Even in So, like, Renee in her personal life is late for everything. I'm late. If you have a dinner date with me, Imma be late. And it's not because I don't love you, and it's not because of anything except that I underestimate how long it takes me to do things, like makeup. It takes me, like, 20 minutes to do my makeup. Somehow in my head, I like to think I'm some low maintenance gal who, like, can take 5 minutes and, like, walk out the door. It doesn't I'm not that person. I'm not naturally like this. Like, I have this is work to look a certain way. The sooner I acknowledge that to
Yes.
myself, I stopped being late for things because my friends were like, but literally my best friend Catherine one day was like, "You're here on time." And I was like, "I scheduled getting ready time in my calendar today." And she's like, "Oh." And I was like, "'Cause it's kinda rude to leave you waiting." She's like, "I was gonna get a drink at the bar, I'm used to it." Because these people know me for 15 years, right? But I know myself. I know that I know what I do, right? I'm 45 years old. It's not changing. So I just accommodate myself the same way I would accommodate a client, same way I would accommodate anyone else in my life. We don't often accommodate for
Yeah.
ourselves. We think, oh, like it's gonna be no, we're gonna be great that day. No, you're not, guys. Just schedule your lives better.
No, no. I
You're
mean,
not.
it's like it sounds like so wah wah, but it's just truthful, right? You
Yeah.
know who you are and who you're gonna and who you are gonna be. I mean, it's so funny you say you're late all the time. Me and my husband just call it Harris time. We will arrive on Harris time.
Harris time. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and normally it's because he's cutting his hair
Hmm.
or ironing his shirt or his pants while listening to Michael Jackson, and it is what it
It is
is.
what it is.
So
My At Wedding MBA, my assistant, uh, who wasn't privy to the schedule the week, like, she did not make my schedule that week. Let me say that.
Mhm.
I made my banana pants schedule that week, and when I gave it to her, she said, "How are you gonna do all of this?" And I was like, "It's gonna be great, don't worry about it. It's just easy." The actual doing of the week by, like, Tuesday, we had gotten there on Sunday, she was like, "Next year, you are not in charge of this. You are not saying yes to all these things. I don't know what version of you thought was gonna happen." Like, I 'cause I was, like, off the strip at a WIPA meeting, taking a lunch with my mastermind groups. I was I was at the booth, I was introducing people, I had scheduled like hair and makeup. Like there was not a moment of my day unaccounted for. She was like, "What part of your brain thought this was appropriate?" And I was like, "I don't know." And it feels like in those moments that I'm like a child, but also like I will always overschedule myself. And I
Well,
know that
because you
that's
think that
true.
you can do all the things, right?
Yeah, it's easy. It's not. It's annoying. Everything takes time. So that's my number 2 is really know yourself, but then also like let people help you with the parts of you that are not always going to be your best self. And we all have those parts and there's no judgment. It just is, right?
Yes, it just
It
is.
just
What's
is.
number 3?
I have so many. I think number 3 for me would be, this is probably going to sound a little self-serving, but number 3 for me would be get good at public speaking. I know so many entrepreneurs that are brilliant who cannot thrive in an interview setting or cannot get up on stage and confidently express themselves. I know women in my life that are geniuses who, when I see them on stage, I go, "Where'd they go? What happened to them?" And I know public speaking is like everyone's number one fear. It's certainly not mine. And I know it's not yours either. So that is something
Yeah,
that
I
when
I try
someone
to
says,
tap into why they're scared, but
right,
I
right, I don't
I think it
understand
probably
it
goes back
really.
to your number 2. I
That's
feel
right.
like you're more confident on stage when you know yourself.
Oh, 100%. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's unapologetic. You're unapologetically saying, "This is the I have things to say here that I think you can benefit from, and I'm gonna say them in my way." And listen, not everybody's gonna love that. I'm sure there are people who come to my presentations that are like, "Oh, this one," right? But that it's fine. They can that's I'm not for them. But I see, and I say women because we're surrounded by so many brilliant women. These brilliant women get up on stage and disappear. And so whatever skill set needs to happen for you personally to get better at public speaking, just go do it. Run toward that. Because for better or for worse, we live in a we live in a world where we're constantly on camera, we're constantly on our Instagram stories and reels, and if what you want is to be that kind of entrepreneur, you've got to get good at public speaking. The end.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I
Yes.
guess there's not when people say that they don't wanna show up on camera, even on Instagram Live or on their
Yeah.
stories or anything like that, I don't understand because you are your business, especially when you're first getting started. So if you don't wanna show up, it's like saying that you really don't want your business to be out in the world. So there's some other conversations that you need to probably have with yourself before you're really ready to launch.
Well, yeah, and also so, like, a few months ago, I did a 30-day visibility challenge. I'm gonna run it again in 2022 because it was so impactful. Um, but I knew this going in, but the people who took the challenge did not know that the visibility work, the showing up on camera, the showing up on stage as your real self has literally nothing to do with your physicality. People, they blame it on that, right? They're like, "Well, my hair isn't done and my skin and I'm a little fat right now," and they say that, right? But what it is about is the I don't wanna say insecurity because that feels like it's a forever thing, but it's that momentary thing where you're like, "Well, I don't feel confident in what I'm saying, in showing up. I don't wanna be seen." And that's a bigger conversation. And that's
Yes.
why I mean, that is going back to the really knowing yourself, right? Like, and I think also accepting yourself. Like, so there are times in the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic, when I have like shown up barefaced with my hair, with my dirty hair in a bun and thrown on a filter and just said my thing, right? Put on a baseball hat if it's real bad and just go for it because you can't always be perfect. You know, I'm not like Nicole Kidman over here. Like my face is gonna move. I have wrinkles. It's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
and Nicole Kidman has a team of
She
beauty
does.
people and hair people and medical aesthetic people, estheticians
And
keeping
it's
her
weird that her
together. So do
face
all of
doesn't
those
move.
people.
We all look at her and go, "Your face doesn't move. It's weird."
Yeah, it is weird. You wanna be like a normal human being.
Right.
And I think that it's like, don't compare this I love when people say this, don't compare your beginning to someone's middle or someone else's end.
Right.
Nicole Kidman, well, let's use somebody whose face does move. J.Lo.
Yes.
is
Well,
gorgeous.
but let's be real about J-Lo. J-Lo does not drink. J-Lo does not smoke. J-Lo eats the healthiest diet I've ever heard in my life, and she works out for hours every day, and she has a team of people to help support her family. Like,
Yep.
you know that thing, like, you have the same hours in a day as Beyonce? Like, yeah,
Yes, I
except
have the
that
same hours, but not the same budget.
and not the same support. I don't have the same support.
Yeah,
So when I look at someone like
yeah,
J-Lo, who's defying age and gravity and awe, I mean, she's amazing. I think, like, do I how do I if I wanna look like her and appear like her, present like her, am I willing to do those things? Am I willing
right.
to never drink again? Am I willing to eat a completely clean diet? Am I willing? Do I have the time? Do I have the support to work out for 3 hours a day? I don't, and that's okay. None of those things are required
Yeah.
to be an entrepreneur who shows up in her business because the standards are not the same. It's just not. Me you guys showing up on an Instagram story and talking about your new course or offering or just saying something that was occurred to you today that you wanted to share is such a different level than a superstar like J-Lo showing up in and her job is to be perfect. Our job is to be real.
Yes. Oof, I love that. Her job is to be perfect, our job is to be real, and authenticity is what spurs connection in the first place, and that's really
Yeah.
what this is all about. You're showing up on Instagram Live or on the stage or wherever you're putting your likeness to build connection, to build relationship. Now,
Yes.
am I in awe of JLo? Yes.
Oh,
Do
for
I
sure.
find myself drawn to being like her bestie? No, because truthfully, I don't really know her, right? I know the
Yes.
image and the perfection, but I don't know her. I
Yeah.
don't see us, like, kicking up with our feet on the couch and drinking some
Water?
non-alcoholic wine.
What would you drink? Yeah, no, just water?
What would
Sure.
I even drink? Yeah,
Right.
I see, I can't even go very far in the visualization, because I don't know much about her because she doesn't drink, and, well, that might be a problem. So you want to make the connection with the people on the stages so that they can relate to you, right? People are going to buy J-Lo and Beyonce's products, but they're at this fully aspirational level, and that's not where I'm at. And even when I am on my Beyonce level, I still want to be me.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Obviously, with someone cooking my meals and helping me, with
Obviously.
my hair
Someone
and
please clean my house. Good lord.
exactly. Like, I mean, just like the
Yeah.
basic level bougie is what I'm trying to get
Exactly.
to.
Well, it's funny because I if we're gonna talk about that. So, like, pre-pandemic, we had a housekeeper because my husband is messy. I'm just gonna say it. I love you, honey, but
Yeah.
you're a mess. And I'm messy only because I don't have time. Like, I'd rather do anything else
Mm,
but, like, wash a pan. I don't care. But we had
yeah,
help. We had a housekeeper, and then the pandemic hit, and of course we don't. And we haven't gotten anyone back yet because it still feels a little
yeah,
tenuous here in LA, and we have to be careful. And I have so many weddings. But the day that it's safe, the day that I'm able to, I'll be like, come back, or perhaps we'll need a new person.
yeah.
But I need help. That's what I wrote on my list for 2022. Like, I need my personal help back because it's a lot to do when I'm also doing all these other things, 8 million things.
I'm in the exact same boat.
Yeah.
Michaela, if you're listening, girl, I miss you. Hearts from the hair.
Hearts, hearts.
So, we've covered a lot of ground, and I have
I've been everywhere.
2 more questions for you.
Sure.
The first question is, what is the number one piece of advice you would give your past self, the version of you who existed about a year after starting your business?
Oh, charge more money.
Oh, girl, yes.
I mean, just what are you doing? Why are you working for so little money? I used to have this really big mental block about it. I grew up pretty poor. There wasn't a lot, but I also wasn't aware that there wasn't a lot. So I just thought our level of, like, m very lower middle class was like everyone lived that way. Like, what are rich people? I don't know. And then, and then my mom moved us to a very affluent community, for me to go to high school because I'm right at the age where, like, in Brooklyn when I was a kid, when I was 13 and about to go into high school, all the metal detectors got put in the high schools, and my mom, like, freaked out. She was like, "No, no, 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 we're not doing this. We're moving to the suburbs." So we moved about an hour and a half away into Long Island to this community called Garden City, which is still to this day, one of the richest communities on Long Island. I went to school with Susan Lucci's kids from All My Children, the grande dame of
Wow.
soaps. Yeah, she used to come to homecoming games in full furs,
Oh
full
my
length
god.
fur. Right. So I went from like coupon cutting macaroni and cheese out of a box eating Brooklyn apartment with my mom to like super affluent, like what is happening? How does like I literally walked around my whole first year of high school going like, but how do they have so much money? Like I couldn't figure out rich people. Like I didn't understand,
You're like,
right?
"Can I just see the bank statements? I have some accounting to
Yeah,
do because 'cause I'm
like I
confused."
yeah, I literally was confused. Like some of my friends in high school got literal luxury cars for their 16th birthday and I was like, "But how?" Like it was inconceivable to me that someone would have that much money, right? And that was baby Renee. So when Renee started her business, having been an actor, which was also a, a, a job in which I would have great years and then horrible years, and it was all sort of augmented with hospitality. When I started my own business, I had a really big mental block as to what I could charge because of what, because I kept thinking, well, I would never pay that. So my year 2 of business, I was doing day of coordination, which is I don't do. It's a dirty word. I hate it. Never. Everything's different now. But I was doing day of coordination for $1,200. And I was saying to my friend who was a more established wedding planner, she kept telling me, charge more money. And I said, I can't, Liz, I can't charge more money. No one's going to pay that. And she goes, I'm telling you they will. And I said, they won't. And we had this big disagreement. And she said, why do you keep saying they won't? And I was like, because I wouldn't pay it. And she's like, well, that is irrelevant. And I just didn't know. I didn't know any better. And I wish that year 2 Renee would have just known more or taken that leap quicker to say like, well, what if I just tried to charge 1,800, right? What if I just tried to charge 2,000? Like, what's the worst that could happen? And I think getting really comfortable with not booking because I charge too much money um, could have happened quicker for me.
That makes a lot of sense, and I love that you said don't base it on what you would pay because
God, no,
when you're starting out as an entrepreneur, you ain't got no money, most
none.
likely,
And
right?
I came from a
You ain't got
background
no
where we
money,
had no
so
money.
you're not paying for yourself at all. You would never pay
Right. And then here's
for
what
yourself.
happens. And then here's what happens over the course of a career, right? Is that like back then $1,200 was a lot of money for me. It's still money to me now, but when someone says to me, "Oh, there's a mastermind group that's going on and it's $10,000 a year," I'm not like, "Oh my god," clutching my pearls. I'm like, "No, that seems right." Because as you progress in your business and you make more money and you charge more money, you also kind of tune into your own like hedonistic adaptation of things, right? So like there's like it's studies, science says the more you are you know, shown, attracted to, purchase in, take part in luxury things, I'm making air quotes, the more you think a non-luxury item isn't worth it because it's not at that price, right? So like, and I always say this about handbags, but like every handbag does the same exact thing, right? The handbag you buy at Target and the Louis Vuitton, they hold the same amount of stuff, right? When you start buying luxury handbags and you realize, "Oh, this is gorgeous, and I feel a certain way when I carry it, and um, it makes me feel accomplished, but also it's long lasting and well crafted and made with fine ingredients, materials, right?" And then you look at the Target bag and you're like, "Well, that's not worth it to me anymore." Even though it's $30, that's a $30 that's not well spent to me anymore because I have adapted my own, level to say, "Yeah, but I want this now." And it's the same thing in your business when you say $1,200 seems like a may as well be a million when you're in year 2, but now I'm charging 12,000 to $15,000 per wedding, and that feels normal to me, right? And so you adapt and you have to allow yourself to experience new levels of all these things, of education, of conferences, of literally anything in your business, right? I've had wedding planning clients tell me like, well, I don't want to book that photographer. I'm like, but we really like them. I'm like, okay, so then why? Well, she's too inexpensive. It makes me worried that she's not very good. I know.
Woo!
And then I had to go back to that photographer and be like, girl, raise your prices.
Yes. Wow. Wow. I really like that because I remember when I first started out, we're copywriters at our core, copywriting and strategy. And I was like, how much should I charge for an email sequence? It's 5 emails. I don't know, maybe $500. I don't know. That sounds about right to me. I mean, I don't know. Not forgetting that I use a system that, only a very small handful of people in the world use correctly. I've been a marketer for 13 years. I'm a
Yep.
copywriter that makes people millions of dollars.
Yep.
And I'm going to charge you $500 for this email sequence that could make you $1 million. No, we charge $3,000 per email sequence.
Yeah. Well, and also
And
there's that thing about like, well, it's easy for me. It's like, and then so charge more for it
so
because
charge more for it. It didn't just become easy to you overnight. It's easy to you because you've spent years learning how to do it.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Are you ready for our final question, Renee Dalo?
Yes. I'm
This
ready.
question this question is our journal prompt question. For
Uh-oh.
all of you listeners out there in the flourishing entrepreneur universe, this journal question is what you will answer in your own journal time, and Renee Dalo has graciously volunteered to answer it for you in advance. Okay, Renee,
I love
we're
it.
going to touch on imposter syndrome.
Oh.
Imposter syndrome is an internal experience of believing that you are not as competent as others perceive you to be. Renee, your journal prompt question is, what do others perceive you to be? What do you feel you are? And how do you bridge the gap for your highest good?
Mm. Imposter syndrome is a big pain in the ass, isn't it? It's just it rears its ugly head when you least when the on the days when you need it least is when it's like, but what if it's all a fraud and they're going to find out that you don't know what you're doing and everything's going to get taken away and you're going to be homeless. Like that's that's imposter syndrome, my friends. And every single one of us has it. Oprah has it. Barack Obama has it. Everybody has it, yo. We all have it. What
I
I
definitely have it.
I mean, we all have it. Everybody has it. Please, every single time before I launch something, I think, "Oh god, this is the worst thing I've ever done and nobody's gonna like it," and everyone's like, literally, I think everyone's gonna laugh at me. Like, I literally have that high school cafeteria, like, no one's gonna let me sit at their table moment. Everybody has it. I think some of it for me comes from when I was an actor, right? Because when you're an actor, um, you are constantly seeking external validation for the thing that you do, right? The only way an actor knows they're good is for someone to go, "I really believed you. You were really that was really good." And when you don't hear that, you're like, "Oh my god, everyone thinks I suck." Or if you don't get a job, you're like, "Everyone thinks I suck," right? So what I like to do when the imposter syndrome like bubbles up because it always does is I take to the journal as I do and I just make two lists. The one list on the left is always like the things my brain is telling me, which aren't always true, hardly ever true. And it's it can be a bunch of things like I said, like, oh, I'm going to launch this thing and no one's going to want it, or they're going to think that I don't know what I'm talking about, or everyone's going to think I'm stupid or whatever, right? And on the other, I literally go line by line and remind myself of the things I know to be true, right? This information is going to help someone, and if I don't release it, that someone won't be helped, right? I am definitely not a stupid person. I've been alive 45 years and I'm very successful. Like I literally like pep talk myself line by line, right? Because our brains are always listen, our brains are hardwired to protect us. Our brains still think that we're like living in a cave and hunting for our food and like trying to outrun predators. Like our brains don't understand that it's cushy and talking to you in a $2,000 computer. Like they don't understand what this life is. This is not what we're designed for. But our brains are just trying to protect us. So when all of this bubbles up about like, well, you're no good at this and someone's going to find out and blah, 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 it's just your brain trying to protect you and keep you safe, but also keep you small. So I like to have a conversation with my brain that's like, hey, brain, thanks so much. You're so helpful, but just not right now. It's not helpful right now. When I'm about to cross the street in New York and get hit by a cab, then please speak up. But right now, all I'm doing is launching this little course that's going to help some people. You can just sit down. You're fine. Just take a break. And I literally have these conversations in my brain like a bananas person where I'm just like, hey, brain. I love you, but not today. And
I don't
that's
think that
it.
makes you a bananas person. I think that makes you sound more sane than the rest of us.
Well, there's a lot going on up in the old head most of the time. But no, I mean, that's how I feel. I think, I think a lot of times we trick ourselves or we lie to ourselves by saying like, "Oh, I have to get rid of that voice." Like that inner critic, that imposter syndrome voice, that needs to go away. It's never going to go away. If you think that's the job, you're going to be completely like annoyed with yourself 24/7. You have to do it in spite of, like, or with, or alongside of. You can't say go away. It's never going to go away. So for me, I just go like, okay, if you're not going to go away, you can come sit next to me, but just be quiet, please. Just shh. We don't need you right now. Exactly.
I I I need to get better at that, and I'm glad. I'm gonna write my list, and I'm gonna tell my brain to shut it.
And when you write the list, like on the left side there, on the things your brain tells you, like be be pretty brutal with yourself. Like get it all out of your head because the one you don't write down is the one that's going to swirl around in there the most, and that's probably the most insidious one. And that's like whatever your deal is, right? Like whatever your biggest fear is. Like mine is like the stupid thing. Like that was we don't want to unpack the childhood, but that's from childhood, right? So like the stupid like, well, obviously she's too stupid to figure this out. Like she's never. And then it's like, okay, but no. All other signs point to not stupid, still
All
here.
other signs point to I have, run several successful businesses, and I'm a
That's right.
very accomplished
Kept myself
entrepreneur.
alive 45 years, everything's fine, we're good. But, these old
Yeah,
stories persist. And that's what I think imposter
absolutely.
syndrome is really. It's like a lot of the old stories that come from other parts of your life, and then also this, like, uncomfortability with risk, like, those 2 things bumping up against each other, I think is the what creates imposter syndrome. Because if you never did anything risky with your life, then you wouldn't really have imposter syndrome. You might have it a little bit, but you would have nothing
True.
to live up to. That's
You
like, "Oh, well, they expect me to be this, but I think I'm this." So if you have imposter syndrome, congratulations, because 'cause you're probably living a big life. Good for you.
Yeah, that means you're stretching, you're trying. I
Yes.
I mean, if you don't
Yes.
try, then you have no reason to be imposter. I love that. I love that. So kudos for having imposter syndrome,
That's right.
actually,
Pat yourself on the
congratulations.
back. You did it.
Renee, this has been insightful and just inspiring and real, and I loved talking to you as I
Thank
do
you.
normally love talking to you.
One day when this
Let the people
pandemic
know.
I was gonna say one day when this pandemic is over, we'll do this in person, like actual in person in our neighborhood since we basically live in the same neighborhood.
Yes, we
We'll
do.
get
We
there. We'll
do.
get there.
We'll get there. So tell the people then where to find you. How can they connect with you if they want some more real talk with Renee Dalo?
Well, there is a podcast called Talk with Renee Dalo because I like to talk and that's my name. That is every Thursday, anywhere you listen to podcasts. For all the wedding industry stuff, the education, the public speaking, that's at reneedalo.com. Soon to be upgraded to a new website. I'm very excited. It's coming soon. By the time this is out, it'll probably be a new one. And then for wedding planning stuff, it's at Moxie Bright Events. But primarily, I hang out on Instagram at Renee Dalo. Just
Yeah.
find me there.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been an amazing episode. I've learned a lot and I'm like ready to like go and like tell my imposter syndrome who's the boss.
That's right.
So thank you for that if nothing else has happened today.
Thank you so much for having me. You are delightful as always, and I love you.
This episode is brought to you by Bioenergetic Business Coaching by Flourish Marketing. Do you wake up feeling tired? You can't build your empire if you're cranky and exhausted. If you're fed up with fighting a losing battle against the burnout monster, it's time to fix the root causes of your issues and get aligned. Turn up the wattage on your glow and cash flow with effective business strategies. Bioenergetic Business Coaching is for growth-getting entrepreneurs who know they need to make a change to see better results and reach their goals. If you want to unblock your energy and unleash abundance, head to www.flourishmarketing.co/coaching to become a client. Now's your chance to step into the role of CEO, Chief Energy Officer, and flourish in business and life. Go to www.flourishmarketing.co/coaching to get started.
told you, Renee is fabulous. What a great interview. I loved her tangible tips. I loved her daily rituals. I love the sentence where she said, what sets me up in my day so I'm not thinking of the things that don't need to be thought of. Whew. Wow. That is powerful. Setting yourself up for success in the beginning of the day when your willpower is strongest is clutch. She also worked with a life coach. I don't know if you really picked up on that or not, but working with coaches is an amazing way to move yourself forward. Yes, this is kind of self-serving since I am a bioenergetic business coach, but whether you work with me or you work with somebody else, getting someone to help you get in touch with yourself is huge. She also talked about starting before you're ready, getting to know yourself really well, which is what we do in bioenergetic business coaching. It's also what we do in our strategy sessions because you can't market if you don't know who you are and how you want to communicate to the world. She also talked about accommodating yourself, being able to accommodate and take care of yourself and asking for help when needed, treating yourself from the perspective of the observer and saying, okay, how do I make sure that this lovely human being is taken care of as my prized possession, my most wonderful human being that I know, myself? She also said something that I'm sure made some of you out there a little bit uncomfortable. She said, be comfortable with public speaking. I will tell you, public speaking is the way I've built my business, and we hit 6 figures in 5 months because of public speaking. I shit you not. So if you want to grow your business, you need to get out there. You need to make connections. And I really, 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 really agree with her when she talked about needing to be comfortable with public speaking. And also, she said it. A lot of our other guests have said it. Girl, you need to charge more money for your services. We've talked about this on the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast ad nauseum in multiple different episodes. You need to charge more money. If you want to take the emotion out of it, get into, your profit margin for it. If you want to do some research around it, but you need to charge more money for your services, I can almost guarantee it. Wow, there's been a lot of brain gems in this episode, and even more when you listen to Renee's podcast, Talk with Renee Dalo. I encourage you to go over and take a listen. Also, if you're interested in getting a little bit more recalibrated so that you can set yourself up for success, be sure to go to flourishmarketing.co/recalibrate to download our recalibration guide. That's it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Flourishing Entrepreneur Podcast with me, your host, Alea Harris. Until next Wednesday, because we drop an episode every single Wednesday, I will see you and wish you love, light, and abundance. All right, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Flourishing Entrepreneur Podcast with Alea Harris. Dive into the show notes at www.flourishmarketing.co/podcast and connect with Alea at Flourishing Entrepreneur on Instagram. Vibing with what you hear? Leave a 5-star review to spread the love and be sure to click subscribe. From the entire Flourish Marketing team, we wish you love, light, and abundance. See you next time.